Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's OVA Overview. In a refreshing palate cleanser from last week's Genocyber Psychosis, we will be looking at a much more fun, coherent, and straightforward series of OVAs, the 6-act New Dominion Tank Police. Now quick note, this little production is based on the manga Dominion by Masamune Shirow, the Ghost in the Shell guy, and like Ghost in the Shell, this series features spider tanks and a strong female lead. Another thing it shares with Ghost in the Shell is that it's centered around a corporation-based conspiracy and the police's semi-legal means to stop it. However, unlike Ghost in the Shell, a relatively serious movie and series, New Dominion Tank Police is a fun action-adventure piece that, while having some serious moments and a wider overarching plot, is at its core about seeing a cast of likable characters set things right in some very zany and over-the-top ways in a very over-the-top setting. And I love it. Now, not every work has to have the deepest themes or most philosophical overtones. Not everything has to be some kind of intellectual construct. Sometimes it's just nice to watch a fun piece where you can tell that the production team also had fun working on it. And now that's not to say that there's nothing here though. In fact, there is a good amount of substance to New Dominion Tank Police, but we'll get right into that after a brief plot summary and one more note about its production. Now, I do say that this is New Dominion Tank Police, because before making this, I was unaware that this is actually kind of the middle child of a series of OVAs based on the Dominion manga. Before this, there was Dominion Tank Police, an OVA which I'll hopefully get to one day, and then there's something after that I forgot to write in the script. So, just so you know, I'm only going to talk about the 6 volumes of New Dominion Tank Police, and the other installations before and after it will probably get their own video at some point far in the future. Anyways, getting to the plot, New Dominion Tank Police follows officers Leona Ozaki and her partner Al-Kul Ad-Solt, which is translated as Southwell in English adaptations, who are both members of the city's tank police unit, which is technically an armored car and tankette unit. I don't think they have any actual tanks, but that's a technicality. Anyways, they and the rest of their unit are tasked with keeping the peace in the quote-unquote super dangerous city of Newport, which is quote-unquote constantly overrun by terrorism and violent crime, even though we don't always see that, but this is a comedy piece, so that's fine. The majority of the 6 episodes of the series follow Leona and the rest of the tank police as they work to stop the illegal and dangerous machinations of Dai Nippon Research and Industries. Along the way, they do things like destroy public property, disobey direct orders, stop a runaway truck, accidentally blow up a few buildings, reference movies of the 1970s, solve a murder mystery, encounter West Virginian catgirls, and commit what may or may not be an act of international terrorism. Now this of course is a very quick overview of a basically 3-hour series. However, I genuinely encourage you to watch these for yourself as they're great fun, and of course I don't want this entire video to be a simple plot summary. Instead, I want to just talk about some things that make this OVA great. Now I will warn you, this is not going to be the most focused installation of OVA Overview, because the thing that makes this OVA so great is just how nebulously fun they are. I mean, the very premise of the series is very over the top, and over the top seems to be a running theme the series embraces. While the tank police do solve various serious crimes like murder and domestic terrorism, and they play an important role in doing so, the tone of the series is never actually too serious. Everyone has fun with their jobs, and no one really gets punished for disobeying orders because I guess it's the right thing to do in this scenario or something. All of this is stuff that I mentioned because it greatly contrasts with the other anime that Shirow is greatly known for, that being Ghost in the Shell, where if Ghost in the Shell brings a chillingly realistic image of how light tankettes with grappling abilities could possibly excel in urban combat settings, with dark conspiracies and mysteries, New Dominion Tank Police shows the practical slapstick issues that come with using tankettes in settings where realistically they're not that practical. And it's good that the series doesn't take itself so seriously, as the zany setup would probably cause some dissonance with it if it did. Instead, what we get here is a relatively action comedic imagining of the realistic issues of using tankettes in urban settings, and just how over the top the whole setup is. I mean, this is a city which allegedly, and I'm quoting, has an act of domestic terrorism every 37 minutes. And I mean, yes, tanks have been used for various police actions worldwide, but for an average city not in a war zone, they're not the most practical. But practicality and realism are not the point of New Dominion Tank Police, and instead, it seems a light comedic tone was sought from the start, and for the most part the series delivers this once it manages to settle into its niche. Now, the first episode does struggle a little with tone, I will admit. Interrupting a funeral is a weird way to start any series, but past episode 1, the show comfortably falls into the light comedic tone that it sought, and there's plenty of action and slapstick and hyperbolic setups and fun character interactions to further all of this. And this is why I said I was going to have kind of a nebulous overview of the series, because I don't really want to give a super detailed plot overview, but a lot of the fun from the series comes in the small interactions that the plot happens to incidentally bring about. There's a lot of fun little one-liners, there's a lot of fun little snips of conversations, there's a lot of fun little visual gags in the background, and the series just seems to be about fun, and it's very refreshing for that matter. On the topic of the characters though, these are another strong point of the OVA, although in a very odd way I noticed. No character here is really that developed or deep, but each has a few little fun flares that sets them apart and makes them instantly recognizable, and thus everyone feels very memorable and likable, even if there is not the most objective development or something. This is a great example of a cast which is likable and defined enough to mask something of a lack of actual character development. I mean, everyone has their defining notes. The chief is the classic irascible police chief. Four Eyes is the science guy. Reverend is the Bible guy. Captain Britton in English adaptations, is a macho man who can't figure out a Google Doc. Al is the level-headed sidekick, and Leona is the hot-headed but well-intentioned lead. All of these are defining traits of these characters, but they don't really grow too much outside of these. But that's forgiven, because even though all these characters are objectively somewhat one note, their interactions with both their settings and each other make them feel very likable, and it makes us feel like we're part of the team. And they and their voice actors have so much fun just being them and being there that it's still really fun to just watch all of this take place, and it's still really memorable because it's really fun. I love how angry the chief is at times. I love that Britton quotes Dirty Harry as if he was a real guy, and I love the dynamic that Al and Leona have as buddy cops on a mission. Speaking of voice actors, New Dominion Tank Police has some of the most magical 90s dubbing I have heard in a good while. It's in that weird 90s zone where it's good enough to be it's considered competent, like, it's fine objectively, but it's still kind of rough enough, or it feels improvised enough to show its age and remind us that this was a time before voice acting is what it is now. It doesn't feel amateurish, but it does feel wonderfully organic and somewhat improvised. Like, the direction was good enough to get good takes and get the message across, but it was loose enough to let the voice actors kind of take control and construct very organic and natural free-flowing dialogues. I don't know how else to describe it, but if you've seen competent dubbing of the 90s, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's oddly distracting and engrossing at the same time, and it's quite magical and something that is just simply irreplicable in today's voice acting industry. It comes from a time when it was less directed and less well managed, and people were just getting the job done and having fun doing so. Also, I think a quick shout out should be given to Alison Dowling, who does the voice of both Puna sisters, as it's genuinely impressive how she manages to make each sound related but distinct enough, and how naturally her conversations with herself sound. It should also be noted that while West Virginian Catgirls sounds kind of weird, there is a chance this is intentional if in the Japanese dub the Puna sisters were given certain Japanese dialects. I don't know if they were, and I don't know if this was intentional or not. I'm just saying that it's a possibility. And of course, mixing all of this dubbing is the returning legend, the returning dub master, Mr. Dick King. I swear, this guy is approaching Michael McConaughey levels of prominence on this channel. Anyways, I love saying his name, and I love the dubbing in New Dominion Tank Police, as well it may not be some of the, quote, measurable best of any dubbing I've seen on this channel. For anyone who has experienced the magic of 90s anime, they will understand the magic of a good 90s anime dub, and they will understand the incredible nostalgia the deliveries here can bring up in someone. One of the weirder things that I like about this series is that it has a small but interesting little touch in that the evil corporation is in and of itself destroyed by another evil corporation. You see, your boy Kataoka and Mr. Coolsworth here were actually industry plants by Rockwell Industries, a bigger company competing to aggressively overtake Dai Nippon Research and Industries. And they actually succeeded doing this by destroying Dai Nippon from the inside out and ratting out their board for all the crimes they've committed in around episode 5. And I really like this because it shows that not only do evil corporations have to worry about the good guys, but they also have to worry about other evil corporations. And this also allows a lot of loose ends to be easily and neatly tied together in a believable manner, and add an interesting little view into the dog-eat-dog world of mega big business. In fact, I don't know how else they could have so neatly and sensibly got everyone in Dai Nippon Research and Industries arrested in any other better way. At least this way it kind of makes sense and it's kind of funny. And I really do like that creative solution to the problem of, oh gosh, we have an hour left, how are we going to wrap everything up? Not to mention, it leads to the finale where now as Rockwell Industry employees, Kataoka and Coolsworth end up getting blown up pretty bad. In fact, if someone asked for an example of a great 90s OVA, then I would definitely recommend this piece. It's extremely fun, it's visually distinct, and the odd production levels of the time, combining gorgeous and creative designs and settings with a very weird kind of amateurish dub, elicits the odd feelings that only watching a worn out VHS at 2 a.m. in the morning can really elicit. Getting to the setting real quick, I love the futuristic details of this setting, while still feeling lived in and relatively realistic. Newport City is not super clean, it still has a port, it still has a lot of normal facilities, but the weird domes and towers do remind us that this is something set in a future world. Or at least it was. I mean, New Dominion Tank Police takes part in 2016, and last time I checked, no city looks like this, but, you know, it's the thought that counts. And I really do love the setting here, as it's grounded enough and gritty enough to let us know that this is a city that the cops need to clean up, but it still has futuristic overtones that really engross us and sweep us away on this magical, mystical tank adventure. And a magical adventure is what I would really call this piece, because getting back to those 90s visuals, the hand-drawn animation just really draws us into a time when anime looked like this and it was expected to look like this. It shows its age instantly, but that's not a bad thing, as it was an age of beautiful styles and beautiful shots and some really creative, fun, zany moments as well. And I think that's one of the reasons this is a great 90s OVA. I love how sprawling and futuristic the Newport City feels. I love the friendly dynamics all the cops have with each other. I love how close they feel even if they're not the most developed on any kind of deeper level. I love the over-the-top solutions to over-the-top problems. I love how stubborn and brave Leona is. And of course, I love this wonderful, obscure anime memory.